What's going on, people? This is a comedy podcast brought to you by me. You obviously know who I am, but don't need to explain it. I do lots of stories across Reddit, talk about what's going on in the comedy scene, and other stuff that I can think of. This is a crazy little thing called Lovdev. Today's episode is 186, Blaccent. I have a squeaky chair. You may hear weird noises in the background. If you don't hear that, you're probably going to hear my washing machine and the dishwasher at the same time. So what a perfect opportunity for me to do another episode for you lovely folks out there. I am very well. I usually ask how everybody is. I know you're fine. You're fine because you're listening back to me for another funny episode. Let's see if we can make it funny. But first of all, I would like to tell you all about my lovely weekend of gigs. So you remember the other night I said to you guys, I've got to record a quick podcast. I've got to go and do a private gig. Now, when you do a corporate gig, it can get very, what's the word? I can get very anxious about it. Because, obviously, I'm going to be the only comedian there. They've booked comedy. They want to laugh. You never know what you're going to get. When you go and do a normal comedy club, you know the usual routine. There'll be other acts there. There'll be an audience. It'll be seated right, hopefully. Everybody's facing the right way. The lighting's great. The sound system's perfect. We're good to go. But when you go and do a private gig, you've got to take your own gear. I always take my JBL boombox, which is a big speaker, and I can connect a microphone to it. But in a smaller room, it's absolutely perfect. In a big room, it is going to struggle because it's not the right appropriate equipment. Well, luckily for me, I was in a smaller room. The gig was in a little place called Bodham. I think it was Bodenham. That's it. That's in Herefordshire. Funny enough, when I got to the venue, I was like, oh, I recognise this place. I've been here before. A few years ago, I did a gig there. It's for a guy named Darren Archer. He had a gig there, and it was the same venue, and I was like, oh, right, okay. So that was kind of like a relief a little bit. Met the landlord. He was absolutely sound. There was about 20-odd people in there, and they were having a leave-in do for one of the staff. He was a young, good-looking lad named Joel. I think he was 27 or something like that. He was quite young, probably younger than that. What a nice thing to do. I knew straight away that this landlord is lovely because he put on this event. He paid for it out of his own pocket. I thought that was quite sweet. They were one of the best audiences I've ever performed to. I had so much fun. Now I was booked to do 45 minutes. I ended up doing an hour and 20. I couldn't believe it. There was just so much going on within the room. Everyone was having a laugh. People were joining in. I mean, it got to a bit where people were shouting out toppers to a joke that I was doing. And I was like, give me a minute, let me write that down. And then that just became a thing. Every time I was going off the cuff or someone else would say something, they'd go, write it down. And it was so funny. There was a guy there named Charlie. He was off his face. He was so off his face, he came in the room, he sat down, he faced the wrong way, and everyone was laughing at him going, no, you meant to be looking at the comedian. And I said, is your name Charlie? I said, you do look like you're on the Charlie. Oh, we had so much fun. Then we started going into material. I started doing my ghost material because they wanted me to carry on. So I started doing a bit about my ghost material. I asked the landlord if they've got a ghost. He said, yeah, it's Charlie. And everyone's like, who's Charlie? And it just became a big laugh. And then I said, I've never seen a ghost vape before, because he was vaping in the venue. It's just a cloud of smoke. That's all we could see. Oh, it was so good. Yeah, one of the best private gigs I've ever had. I did another gig last night before we move on to some other stuff. I was in... Where was I? I've done a few gigs this weekend. I've got a busy September, folks, which I'm quite pleased about, because obviously, I don't know if I told you this, but I'm doing the Birmingham Comedy Festival next month on Sunday, October the 5th. It's in a venue called the Victoria. My show is pretty early. It starts at 3 o'clock. Do you know what? I forgot the time. Yes, I was right. It's at 3:30. I had to quickly look on the Birmingham Comedy Festival website. So it's awkward tales, cultural clashes, and a chaos soaked in laughter and truth. That is at 3:30 on Sunday the 5th, as I said, Victoria Pub. If you guys can make it, those of you who are based in the West Midlands, or you're thinking, do you know what? I'm going to go down and travel and go and see Lovdev's show. There are lots of other shows on before me and after me. So on the day of me, you can see Rachel Sambrook's something called Treasure Hunt, which is run by James Cook. Then we've got Hassan Al-Habib. He is on after me, and I like the show title he's got. He's got Deaf to the West Midlands in brackets. I think that's a very clever show title. And then there's another venue that also has comedy on the same time as our shows, and that is the Cherry Reds. I was in Cherry Reds last year. So there you could go and see Two Muslims, Two Furious. There's Behind the Headlines, Cheeky Blinders. You've got Oxy, who's a very good friend of mine, and he actually designed the logo of my podcast. If you see my podcast picture, he drew that, and I love that to bits. I actually got that picture blown up into a big, I think it's an A3, I think it is, which is bigger than the A4, and I've got it in a frame, and that's on my wall of fame in my own bedroom. Why not? Then we've also got stand-up with Adam Beardsmore, who is the regular MC for Rough Works at the Glee Club, which I am also playing this month at the end of September. And we've got Jules O'Brien, who's sharing the bill with Adam. So there's lots of stuff going on at the Birmingham Comedy Festival. If you don't want to see my show, absolutely fine. There's so much going on. Grab yourselves a brochure. You can actually download it from the website, which should be dandy. And I was going to tell you about another gig that I did, but I totally forgot what gig that was. It was good. Do you know what I mean? Tomorrow, I am supporting Bobby Davro. Yep, United Kingdom, the very famous Bobby Davro. I will be in Cardiff, and I'll be opening for him. Can't friggin' wait. Let's do another topic. It is time for Ask the UK. This one has been put up by somebody called Occidental Tortoise. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, but it does not matter. Now, they have a bit of a dilemma. Teenagers. What is the Ask the UK question? Why were teenagers asking for my home Wi-Fi password? So they can get free internet, mate. That's probably why. They obviously, teenagers, I haven't really supposed yet, but I'm guessing they haven't got any money. Maybe they were outside your house, they needed the internet for some emergency reason, and that's why they knocked on your door and kindly asked you for the Wi-Fi password. How did they know that you had Wi-Fi, first of all? Does every household in the United Kingdom have Wi-Fi? I'm guessing so, but then I've got a feeling there's probably a lot of people who don't have the internet. I am going to ask my trusty friend, who we haven't spoken to in ages. It's Chat LGBT. Chat LGBT has responded instantly. That's what it's designed to do. Currently, in the United Kingdom, 7% of households have no internet access at home. 7%. That's unbelievable. This is down from approximately 11%. So in 2020, it was 11%. But this is Ofcom's 2023 report. I'm guessing it will drop down slightly, obviously, as networks expand. Then maybe 5% of the UK won't get internet. But that is a lot. Imagine not having internet. I bet they've got the happiest of lives in the UK. But going back to, where was he? Occidental Tortoise. Asking the question, obviously, why were teenagers asking for his Wi-Fi? Now let's read more on his story. They are saying they had two teenage girls, 13 and 14-year-olds, I guess, happy birthday to them, knock at the door in the afternoon and ask for the Wi-Fi password, as they needed to contact their mother. So there is a reason, a genuine reason. Asked why not call and got the answer that they had no phone credit. I offered to call on their behalf, but they claimed they didn't have their mum's number. Now that's very weird. I need to call my mum. I can't call my mum because I don't have credit and I don't even know what her number is. Obviously, that is a massive lie. I asked what the problem was, and they said they didn't know how to get home. God, these girls are good, aren't they? I asked where home was, and it was a 5-minute walk away. That's brilliant. I gave them simple directions, and they left. Rather than heading home, they knocked on another door further up the street, and I assume went through the same rigmarole. Now that is great. That's the end of what he's put down. So it does look like they just wanted internet, maybe. Maybe they wanted to make a TikTok video. This is what teenagers seem to do. Asking for Wi-Fi. Now, would I give somebody my Wi-Fi? Now, my new neighbour that hasn't moved in yet, who lives next door, she's just popped in. And I said to her once, I said, you can use my internet, you know. I'm happy to share my Wi-Fi password with you. But she totally blanked and refused it, which I thought was fine, but she told me her internet isn't very good in her house. I don't know what network she's with, but that's, yeah. Someone's put a comment saying years ago, before 4G, everybody who had BT internet could use other BT customers' Wi-Fi, up to 20% of their home speeds. So I could probably get Wi-Fi free from about 20 to 25% of all the houses when I was on my road. I may have stood outside a few houses while I downloaded a few torrents. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people just want to download stuff so they can get free Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi should be free anyway, don't you think? We do pay a lot of money in the UK for the internet. And there's so many network providers out here. So we're not really short of internet access. Although, currently, 6% or maybe 7%. I don't know what the percentage is now. Doesn't have internet. How are you getting on with your house? I hear you guys asking me. I'm almost getting there. I'm taking my time. I just want everything to be perfect. You guys know I'm painting, don't you? I'm actually painting. I feel like I'm one of the builders now. It's a weird feeling. On my days off from work, I will just paint. And they're obviously in the background. They're doing the tiling or they're doing something with a door. And there I am in my kid's bedroom, painting away. They've got their own radio on. Now, I'm not a fan of Asian radio stations because they talk too much. They play a lot of adverts. Obviously, that's how they make their money. But I'm there thinking, I want to play my own music. And when I do, one of them moans and tells me to turn it down. Which I do, out of respect. But I just like listening to my own music while I'm painting. But I do feel like I am part of the team builders. And even my missus said to me, you look like you're one of these lads now. You're like, you come with them. I'll come in the van, and I come out the van. I'll ring the doorbell. I'll say, hello, good morning, blah, blah, blah. Go up, crack on with whatever it is I've got to do. I'm getting there slowly. Now, one thing I have learnt is, and it's very difficult, but I'm getting there, is how to draw a straight line between the ceiling and the wall. When you got to do a fine line across the top, you know what I mean? I've been learning that, and I'll be honest, I'm all right, I'm not too bad, I'm pretty good. I haven't made any big mistakes. When I mean big mistakes is when you get a bit of paint on your ceiling and you think, oh, God, that's one thing I haven't done. It's not perfectly straight, but you can see it's a good, nice, neat line. And now I feel like I'm cheating because I'm actually using tape. And the builders were like, why don't you just use tape across it and then paint and then take the tape off? But it kind of makes me feel like I'm cheating. But you do get a straighter line. Not that you guys care about that. Guys, should we do a topic? Yes, it is time for No Stupid Questions, No Stupid Questions. What's it going to be about today? I don't know because I don't have a genuine jingle for that. And now I've got creepy music playing in the background, which I'm going to have to pause. Because it doesn't suit the No Stupid Questions. What is today's No Stupid Question? I'm already excited about this question because of the actual title. It has been put up by somebody called U/. What is the stupid question they are telling everybody? They are saying, I learnt English from a black Americans and have a Blaccent. They have a Blaccent. Is that wrong? No, I don't think it's wrong because you hanged around with a lot of black Americans and you've kind of picked up their lingo and now you're saying certain words. I've got friends from all over the globe. I've got friends from Nigeria. And I've already picked up a lot of the Nigerian slang, which I use myself. And my Nigerian friends will be like, you are funny, brother. Are you sure you are not Nigerian? You are definitely from Nigeria. If you went to Nigeria and you did the comedy, they will love you, my brother. I also do the accent like that. Let's find out what U/ is saying. For context, I'm half European and half Asian. Which one? Ooh. I went to middle and high school in the deep south in the USA. Most of my classmates were black. As a result, I speak with elements of AAVE. I don't know what AAV is. I'm going to have to ask my old trusty friend again, Chat LGBT. And Chat LGBT got back to me very quickly. She is saying that AAVE, for the people of the UK and the rest of the world outside of the United Kingdom, because we don't know what that means, African American Vernacular English, which is also known as Black English, Ebonics, or Black American slang. So, kind of like what I was talking about, the Nigerian slang. Right, so that's basically what she's saying. She's not mocking it in a way, it just happened and I didn't notice it until someone told me I was approving of Black English. I don't do it on purpose and I don't realise it in the moment. Is that wrong? No, because in the UK, we have Caucasians who live in a very ethnic minority area. They will talk slang. They will act like they are black or Asian, and it's just the way of life. That's what it is. So, what else is it that they are saying? They are saying, I can't help that I was mostly surrounded by black Americans when I started learning English, but I don't want to come across as someone who's mockingly speaking in a Blaccent. Sometimes you'll meet someone who's white and they have a strong Jamaican accent. I've seen it. I've seen Chinese people with black accents. When I say black, I mean Jamaican. But that's obviously where they've grew up and they've picked the language up, and that's what happens. I mean, look at me. When I go to India, people laugh at me because I'm obviously an Asian person who can speak very beautiful English, but sometimes can't pronounce the words because I was a bit of a ficko at school. Which is why I'm a comedian. Someone has put down a comment which has got loads of likes saying, people will be surprised you just sound like that, but that doesn't make it wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Nailed it in one. I have a colleague from Pakistan who grew up in Edinburgh, Scotland, and that blew his mind. Yep, same thing for me. I met a Scottish Mr. Singh, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? It's almost time to end the podcast, but a little bit too early. So why not do a confession?
Confessions the church, red it's the priest, a click to cleanse or fuel the beast.
Yes, it is confession time. Today's confession has been put up by somebody called Pancaketa. Pancaketa's confession involves work. They say they sit in their car for an hour after work and tell everyone it's traffic. It's the happiest part of my day. I think a lot of people, when they get late for work, they will blame it on the traffic. I mean, I am usually in genuine traffic when I'm going to work because I work in a different city, so it takes me a longer while to get there. They are saying I park a couple of blocks from my home, they kill the engine and just exit. No radio, sometimes a podcast. Well, hopefully you can listen to my one. Sometimes I stare at a leaf on the windshield. I text traffic to the family group chat and sit there like a raccoon pretending to be a functioning adult. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. I've just noticed you saying you sit in your car an hour after your work. So you don't literally go home. You sit in your car once you've finished. I thought you meant you sit in your car for an hour and then you go to work. There's probably a lot of people who do that. I don't see anything wrong with you having an hour to yourself. I like to be on my own, so when I go and do my gigs up or down the country, I like to be on my own, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'll have somebody with me, I'll have a car share with other comedians, which is fine, depending on where it is. But I do like to be on my own. I have my own music, I can let go of my bodily farts if I want. That kind of stuff. They're saying it started during a rough week. I told myself I needed 5 minutes to decompress so I wouldn't bring the home office, basically the work, to home. 5 minutes became 15, then an hour. Now that quiet metal box is the only place where nobody needs anything from me. I like that. Here's the part I'm not proud of. I've missed dinners. I've let calls ring out. I've walked in with a tired smile and lie about a stalled truck on the highway. And in brackets, he's put, there's always a stalled truck somewhere, even when I'm nowhere near a highway. I'm not cheating. I'm not job hunting. I'm just exhausted and addicted to being unreachable. Fair play to you, mate. That's your myself time. There is nothing wrong with that. They're saying, I think I'm scared that if I say I need an hour to myself, people will hear, I don't love you. So I picked up the coward's version. Silence and excuses. It feels harmless, but it isn't. It chips away at trust, and I can hear it in the little pause before they say, okay. I'm confessing because I don't want the happiest part of my day to be hiding. I'm going to tell them the truth and ask for a real boundary. 1 hour after work, phone on do not disturb, then I show up fully. If they say no, at least I finally said something real. If anyone else does the car park thing, you're not a monster, but the quiet hits different when it isn't stolen. Ooh, nice comment there. Mate, I do it all the time. When I go to a gig and I come back home, I do usually go straight in my house because I've been in my car for so long. So in a way, I am kind of doing what you're doing. And sometimes some of my friends will be like, oh no, he's confessing as well. I let my phone ring out. People ring me and I don't want to speak to them, to be honest. I just want to be on my own. I'm like that as well. And I always get the regular people who keep phoning me. If you listen to this podcast, you know who you are. They are friends. You know, I've got a lot of love and respect for them. But just like yourself, sometimes you just need that time to be alone and collect your thoughts. And it's kind of like meditating in a way, isn't it? You're just slowing yourself down, getting yourself back to normality. There is nothing wrong with that. With the nothing wrong, shall we find out what is wrong in the world of the weird news story? A grandfather has mistakenly taken home the wrong child from a Sydney daycare centre. A granddad has took the wrong kid home. This is amazing. Makes me ask the question, how many times has the grandfather seen their grandchild? Or is it just a coincidence that their grandchild looks like another kid that they've picked up from nursery? This is amazing. I say nursery, it's a daycare centre. I don't know how old they are. We're going to find out right now. An investigation has been launched and a childcare educator has been stood down after a grandparent mistakenly picked up and took the wrong toddler home from a Sydney daycare centre. So it's actually a toddler, which makes it even worse. The grandfather arrived to collect his grandchild from First Steps Learning Academy in Bangor. I believe it's in Australia, obviously, on Monday afternoon, only to reportedly be given the wrong child. So even he didn't make the mistake. Somebody in the daycare centre went, here's your grandchild. And he must have looked at them and went, oh, they look very different. I didn't know I had a black kid. The man unwittingly took the child, who was sleeping at the time, home with him. The mistake was only realised when the boy's mother showed up at the centre to collect him and found he was not there. Oh my God, can you imagine that? You go to pick up your toddler from a daycare centre thinking, oh, they'll be all right. Imagine when you find out they're not there. That is awful. I can't explain the feeling, says the mom, who told the newspaper of learning her 1-year-old has been collected by a man she didn't know. We don't blame him. We are not angry with that person. We are not upset at him, but they do blame the daycare. The grandfather's wife told the Sydney Morning Herald her husband was devastated by the mistake and raced the child back so fast when he realised he had the wrong boy. I am just so glad the little boy was okay, she said, adding her husband had arrived at the centre when the children were sleeping and the room was dark. New South Wales Early Childhood Education and Care Regulatory Authority said it was conducting a thorough investigation into the deeply concerning and serious incident. I feel sorry for the person who handed that child over. They are going to go through so much trouble. I don't even know what's going to happen to that person, first of all. Don't they normally have two people who make sure they go home? Like, if it was me and I was running a daycare centre and I had like 20 kids in there, I'd make sure that there's always two staff members who witness the child being handed over. If you know what I mean. Maybe the granddad looked like another granddad from another child. It's easily done. There's so many kids, you can't remember everyone's face. Oh, it's a bit tricky, this one. The authorities said that an educator has been stood down from the daycare centre while the investigation is going on. The authority investigation will consider the service's compliance history, the regulator said, adding NSW police had been notified. The police said it did not have any record of a police investigation, so that's very confusing. Trisha Hasty, a shout out to her, approved the provider of first steps, issued an apology to the families for the distress caused by the incident, which she said was isolated. This has never happened before at Bagnor or at any of our other centres. In a statement that was given on Thursday, while we have always maintained strict protocols for drop-off and pick-up, that's what I assumed they should have done. In this case, those processes were not followed correctly, and the educator involved has been stood down. Wow. We have acted immediately to strengthen our procedures and ensure this never happens again. The incident comes at a time of intense scrutiny of the early childhood sector in Australia. There's been disturbing allegations of abuse and neglect of children across the Australian childcare centre, leading to government reviews of the sector both in the NSW, wherever that is, and Victoria. A suite of legislative changes has been announced by the state and federal governments aimed at improving safety standards in the sector. There have been no allegations of abuse or neglect directed at First Steps Learning Academy in Bagnor, which I suppose is a good thing. But I do feel sorry for the worker who has to maybe even go to court. Oh, Grandad taking the wrong child. That is today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do like it, give it a like, give it a share, leave a comment. It really helps with the algorithms and all that malarkey. And if in the United Kingdom, put in Sunday, October the 5th, half-soaked show at Birmingham Comedy Festival in the Victoria. And I would love to have you in the audience because I think I'm going to have a full room. See you guys later.